Tonight on Ham Nation, we've got one jam-packed show for you. Boy, a lot of topics here tonight. A special COVID treatment request from Dr. Scott on how you may be able to help. Bob talks about the Club of the Week, the Tri-Town Amateur Radio Club. We've got Larry Pollock from W5YI on remote testing online and how that went and maybe what it holds for the future. Roland is back with the remote amateur video truck. Tracy tells us a little bit more about how to be more secure when you're using Zoom. We've got some tips for watching Ham Nation live stream, and Val's back with a DX corner and a remote DXpedition, as well as Amanda wrapping it up with some chat room questions. Don't go away. Ham Nation is next. Ham Nation is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by DX Engineering. DX Engineering offers practically everything you need to outfit your shack, plus the fastest shipping in the industry. Most in-stock items ship the same day, Monday through Friday until 10 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit dxengineering.com/hamnation. And by ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode 448 for April 8th, 2020. Quarantine for hams.
Hello, everybody. This is Bob Heil, and you're watching Ham Nation. This is a very important show. All of our shows are important, but this one is life-saving. And I want all of you to pay close attention to all that's going on. I advise you to get a pencil because you're going to write down some things. And we want you to follow us because it has a lot to do with all of this nonsense that's going on, because it certainly isn't nonsense. It's life-threatening, and we have people that can help us. Gordo has some fantastic interviews in a little. Gordo, how are you holding up? You and Susie doing okay?
Yes, we're fine here on the West Coast, and we can't wait to hear what these experts are going to tell us tonight.
You got it. You got it. We're going to take right off. I'm going to introduce my good friend, Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD. Scott, thank you so much for being here. I know you have quite a story, so I'm just going to move off to the side and you tell us what's going on, please.
Well, thank you, Bob. Good evening, and good evening to everyone. The COVID pandemic that we are in the United States has been one of the greatest public health threats in the last 100 years. We are seeing more deaths now due to this illness than we have seen with any other major illness in a given short time period. The treatments for this are lacking. There are no approved therapies to treat this disorder. But last week, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, along with other U.S. government agencies, contacted a colleague of mine at Mayo Clinic, Dr. Michael Joyner, about resurrecting or trying an old therapy that worked in the Spanish flu pandemic 100 years ago and in other pandemics since that time. It's called convalescent plasma. What is that? Well, for those of you who have relatives or friends who have recovered from the COVID infection and are now doing well, they can actually donate blood through the American Red Cross, Vitalant, ABC, or One Blood, or any other blood bank source, because their blood for a few months after the infection contains proteins called antibodies. Those antibodies provide protection. They kill the virus. They help the immune system. It's especially important for those who are, say, under 60 who have recovered, because they have lots of antibodies. And we can take a unit of blood from one person who has recovered and treat 2 or 3 or 4 patients who are currently in the hospital with the COVID infection. The FDA has started a national study that a team at Mayo Clinic led by Dr. Joyner is leading. It's called the U.S. Plasma Convalescent Study. There are over 400 acute care facilities, hospitals, and other facilities who have signed up in the last 3 days to be a part of this. What's happening is that once recovered individuals have donated plasma, the Red Cross or others will distribute it nationally. And once you've signed up to be in the study, and doctors can do this, and if you have a loved one in the hospital or if you know someone in the hospital, they can ask the physicians treating them to sign up and get them involved. We believe this will work. It's being tested like a clinical trial. It has worked in the past. Data from China have suggested that it will work. Anecdotal data from the United States, we're hearing people are sharing very promising case reports. And this is really serious. I have a colleague who's been calling the facilities, the physicians who have signed up in the last 2 days, and he's hearing tearful stories. They have patients who are on ventilators who they can't get off the ventilator, and they're looking for therapy. So how can you help? How can we pull together as a nation, and what can we do to really help each other? And that is, those of us who have had the disease and recovered should donate plasma at the Red Cross or your local blood bank so that what your antibodies can help actually save the lives of other people. The website is listed here. It has frequently asked questions. It has an email link. If you have questions, you can email questions to the team at Mayo Clinic to ask. But please spread the word. Spread the word with your children and grandchildren and your neighbors that this is something we all can do. And there's no cost for getting the plasma. It's free. The study is being funded by the U.S. government in terms of just the small cost of the people who are running it. And Bob, this is so important that I appreciate you giving us an opportunity to share tonight about this, because it is a potential glimmer of hope in what has otherwise been a very depressing situation.
Well, we talked today. You had written me about a microphone for your Collins radio, and I got to thinking, wait a minute, and we got to talking about this important subject and really never even solved the problem of your radio, but we can do that later. This is so important, and I appreciate you coming on so quickly. That's really wonderful of you, and we might have you come back several times and give us an update. But anything we can do, you have suggestions, what you've given it out, but you want to double down on any one important thing that we all need to do?
Everyone should try to stay well, follow the advice of all the states and the president to stay socially isolated and keep washing your hands. We know the virus spreads a lot like other infections like strep throat and the flu and the cold. If you keep your hands clean and wash those and don't touch your face, you reduce your risks substantially of getting it. But please, if you have family members or friends or anyone in your community or your religious circle who have recovered from this, encourage them to donate. It's something we can all do now. We can donate our blood, a unit of blood, and it will probably save lives. The message I've been giving the team working with me and Dr. Joyner has been, the lives we save may be those of our family or ourselves. So this is one time that we need to really all hands on deck and a nationwide effort. There are hundreds of hospitals waiting for blood now. The Red Cross is ready to receive donations. The other big organizations are across the U.S., so contact them. And if you look at the website, www.uscovidplasma.org, there are links there about how to find a blood center where you can donate. If you have any doubts, just drop an email to the address there, and someone will reply back within a few hours giving you the link of where to donate blood. Bob, I'd be happy to come back on in a few weeks whenever you want, but thank you for letting us talk about this very important potential therapy that we can give right now to people who are in the hospital critically ill with the COVID infection.
So important, so important. Gordo, you have any final words? Any questions?
No, I'm all ears on this one, and we'll spread the word, Doctor, via ham radio, as you do too, as a licensed ham. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for taking your time this evening. Thank your wife for giving you the time, because I'm sure your short time at home, good grief. So thank her and all your family members. Be safe and let us know what happens, and we'll get that Collins radio on the air, but down the line, okay?
All right. Thank you. 73 and good night.
Thank you. Well, it's just so important, and the social gathering thing. We are the social gathering of the world. We always have been, with our various repeater nets, our friendly nets, and our MoCam nets, and our DX clusters. We are the great social gatherings, but we do it with a microphone and a speaker or headphone. But there are problems that come up to that. We have clubs that we have to meet. You really do. And you heard last week from a couple, and I put out the word, we want to spotlight some of these clubs. And I have got a host of them. And if you have a club and you're doing some things and you know that you need to be on and tell the world, you send me an email. Really simple. My call at ARRL. But one of the clubs I want to bring on tonight is the Tri-Town Club, and let's see if Todd is here with us. We're so happy to have you here. There we go. And where are you, Todd?
Hi, Bob.
Where are you?
I'm in Evergreen Park in my basement.
Evergreen Park, okay. And tell us a little bit about the club. I'll bring up some of the slides in a minute, but this is an old club, Doc, in 1937, right?
Yes, our club was actually founded in 1931 by a group of guys that lived either in Homewood, Hazel Crest, or Harvey, Illinois, thus the name Tri-Town Radio Amateur Club. And we've been going along ever since. We'll be celebrating 90 years next year.
Wow. Well, there's a picture of some of those guys. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, that's probably the oldest picture we have of the club. It's from 1937. And the four gentlemen that are in that picture from left to right are Art Thomas, W9YMF. Next is G.L. Doslin, W0TSN. Then N.E. Gibbons, W9TAK. And then standing on the far right is Vern Dawson, W8VZE. Of interest, the man second from the left, G.L. Doslin, served as president of the ARRL from 1952 to 1963. So he went from president of our club to president of the ARRL.
That's great. Yeah, he was in there when I got my license. That was a wonderful time.
Here's a picture from the Dayton Hamvention. That's what it was called when this picture was taken. And that's Doug, W9SPC, who unfortunately now is a silent key. But we've been going to the Dayton Hamvention and having a slot there for many more years than I can remember. And this is a picture of our club station. We have a club station. We are very lucky. We work real closely with the village of Hazel Crest, Illinois. And we have this club station in one of their buildings at their Public Works Center. They also provide us with a meeting room in their municipal building. And it's really been a nice working arrangement that we've had with these folks. And here's two guys getting ready for field day. That's Bruce, WD9GHK, on the hand crank, and Ron, KD9 FQP, and that's what we do for not auxiliary power, but alternate power to get a few extra points for field day.
Absolutely.
And here's two guys at our satellite station. The man close in the middle is Mark, KA9OOI, and I'm running Peter, KE9YX. I'm sorry, Peter, I forgot your name momentarily there. But we've got satellite capabilities at our club station and also 160 through 6. So it's a pretty complete station. Yeah, we missed a picture here. There was a picture of a picnic gathering, but this is Jerry, K9PMV working portable, at our picnic last September out at the Moni Reservoir south of Chicago. And I think he was working 20 meters CW then and making some contacts.
All right.
And here's Mark again, K-A-9-O-O-I. He's giving a presentation at one of our club meetings. That device sitting on the table is a 3D printer that he improved on and modified. And one of his first projects was to make some small gears that he needed to fix the tuning mechanism on an old rig he had. So he's an excellent machinist. And with this in his hands, he knows no bounds.
That's great. And you have good meetings.
Oh, here's the Christmas party. And every December we all get together with the members, their wives, and some children come along, and we have a good time. Way to wrap up the year with a good social happening.
Well, what are you doing now that you can't have your gatherings like these? These were all done sometime a year ago. What have you done now to make the meetings work? That's what we really want to talk about.
Well, as most clubs do, we have a newspaper, we have a website, a Facebook page. We have 3 nets a week. That kind of keeps everybody informed. But our March meeting we conducted over our repeater and had a very nice 45-minute long meeting. It was very orderly. It progressed nicely. It was a bit of an organized improvement over what we normally do. And we're looking forward to this month in April to have our board meeting and our regular club meeting via Zoom. Everybody's kind of got to get on the learning curve to tackle these programs that let you continue on despite that we're all grounded.
Well, one of the things that you'll want to do is stay tuned to the gentlemen who are coming right after you, because they're here to teach us about how to use Zoom, and that's what we're doing on Ham Nation. We want to teach everybody how to make things work. So I really appreciate you coming on tonight and telling us about your club, and I hope that you continue doing your Zoom and Skype things. You have to do it these days. So please do that, and we'll come back and find out how you're doing after all of that. Okay?
Okay, Bob, and thank you very much for having Tri-Town on Ham Nation.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you came. Well, Gordo, we need to go do one thing before we get really into it. Don needs to talk to us about DX engineering.
As every ham knows, RFI, radio frequency interference caused by a neighbor's noisy electronic device or even stuff in your own home, can bring you major operating headaches. But don't worry about it, because DX Engineering offers products and resources to help you combat RFI, like the DX Engineering Ferrite RF Noise Reduction Kits. They feature toroids and bead chokes made from mixes of ferrite proven to block and dissipate RF currents. You attach it to a cable or wire, and the ferrite choke suppresses RFI in specific applications like linear amplifiers, base stations, AM broadcast, and AC/DC generators. The kits also come in combinations of ferrite mixes, sizes, and types for a range of use. Toroids are all color-coded, so you can conveniently identify a Mix 31 from a Mix 75 just at a brief little glance. And DX Engineering's patent-pending ISO Plus Ethernet RFI filter is a simple way to suppress RFI to and from Ethernet cables used in PCs, printers, transceivers, and other devices. You'd be amazed how noisy those things are. The ISO Plus is an inline filter that joins 2 RJ45 connectors together to fight common mode RFI and EMI noise interference from well below 1 megahertz to over 100 megahertz. This interference is a common problem on Ethernet Cat5e and Cat6 cables. And the result is reduced or eliminated EMI or RFI caused by power supplies, wall power adapters, appliances, just about anything else near RJ45 cables. And the ISO Plus is available in sets of 2 or 10 filters. And DX Engineering proudly carries leading reference books on RFI and grounding from the ARRL, like the ARRL's Grounding and Bonding for the Radio Amateur by Ward Silver. Guy's a genius. Covers RF management, AC safety, lightning protection, and a host of other topics. ARRL's RFI book addresses the causes and cures of many interference problems from televisions to automotive-related RFI. And the ARRL's handy RFI Pocket Guide provides essential data on RFI for advanced ham radio operators and technicians. DX Engineering ships faster than anybody else in the industry. Most orders placed by 10 p.m. Eastern are shipped the same day. With proven products and expert advice, DX Engineering is helping you shrink the globe. Request your catalog or shop online 24/7 at dxengineering.com/HamNation. And, of course, we thank DX Engineering for their support of Ham Nation.
All right. Thanks so much, Don. And you bet, they've got great stuff at DX Engineering. Well, you know, one of the points earlier raised was we're all stuck at home now. What about ham radio testing? So I thought, let's bring in a volunteer exam coordinator, the W5YI VEC. And here's Larry Pollock NB5X. Larry, welcome aboard. And Larry, probably the biggest word that everybody is asking is, how can I take a test if we're all locked down? Is there any remote testing that the W5YI group may be working up? Larry?
Oh, thank you, Gordon. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to talk about this new buzzword, remote testing. We have come up with a solution or found a solution to offer remote testing around the country during these time of national restrictions on travel and personal gatherings. We sponsored the first remote exam session last week ago, Thursday, March the 26th. Administering VEs were located in Pleasant Grove, Utah, and the applicant was in Pahrump, Nevada.
Oh, wow.
The computer-generated exams were administered using Zoom. The applicant took and passed the Element 2 tech test and was being observed by 3 VECs as well as our office, also using Zoom. The computer-generated exam documents were sent via email to our processing office in Arlington, and for us to review the results and then electronically file them with the FCC in a matter of hours, not days.
Wow.
This all is possible using a program called examtools.org, developed by Richard Bateman, KD7 Baker Charlie, whom also provides hamstudy.org practice exams and signal stuff antennas. Selective VE teams around the country have used this platform since 2014 to give in-person computer exams rather than on paper, and then provided PDF originals and scans of the documents. And the only thing that was missing to make remote processing really functional was to add video live monitoring so that the administering VEs could observe the applicant in real time and make remote administration of exam a reality. The test integrity, which is always a primary concern, can be assured by requiring the applicant to clear the table around the area where they're taking the test by computer and show the VE team a 360-degree live view of the room in their camera before starting the exam. This is to assure also that no other person is in the room. The applicant shows the VE team their photo ID and clears the desktop before starting the exam by login and password access. And the applicant his face is on screen from the start to finish, as well as audio while taking the test. So with all that, I think with all the session participants being monitored and recorded, as well as the applicant's face and test screen, it's actually more difficult to have less integrity in a remote session than it is in a person test with a crowded room of applicants. The single and most important integrity concept built into this process is that the applicant's screen and face is being viewed as they scroll through the exam questions. If they tab off or observed looking elsewhere around the room, anywhere but at the exam questions, the VEs have the ability to pause the exam and question the applicant and terminate it should it be necessary.
Wow, isn't that something? Now, Larry, must all examiners now do remote testing, or do the volunteer examiner teams have the capability to, with proper PPE equipment, do examinations one-on-one, keeping that safe distance? Can we still do exams through W5YI live, but taking all precautions?
Well, that has been done about 3 weeks ago at the beginning of all this lockdown and personal contact restrictions. We had a local team that gave an exam to 3 applicants with 3 VEs in a 20 by 40 foot conference room. They all wore masks and gloves, and the applicants were willing to do it, and so were the VEs. So it is possible, as long as you stay under the CDC mandate is still 10 people in a gathering. So it is possible. The remote testing process, of course, circumvents that whole issue. But I think it's doable if everyone's agreeable. Don't know that there's, anybody signed any responsibility waivers or anything like that, but it is possible.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Now, Larry, where can folks who are part of a VE, W5YI VE team, where can they call to speak with your team in Arlington, Texas, to learn more about what it's going to take to do an exam during these critical times?
Well, they can definitely call our office, 800-669-9594. We'd prefer the teams that are wanting to get involved and do remote testing. Just send us an email at w5yi-vec@w5yi.org. The normal address they send test sessions to, or any other communications. And we're actually going to start a list of those VEs, as well as individuals that may want to call or email us and be put on a list to take an exam just as soon as we're ready to roll this whole process out.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great. Now, final question, Larry. Is there any chance that the extra class pool, the new one due out July 1st, would they delay it, or are we right on schedule with the new pool dates? Because that really doesn't, we're not causing a delay in that, I don't think. Any change in extra?
Not that's been decided, no. We've seen a lot of public concern about having already studied and spent time working on preparing for on the current pool. But I think that I don't know if I don't see that it's going to be extended. We would encourage applicants that want to take an extra class exam to be first on the list by sending us an email, and then we would contact them and put them in touch with the team that's willing to give this exam remote. And that way we can circumvent the new pool or the old pool expiring and new pool coming in.
Oh, that's great, Larry. Well, Larry, thank you so much, and for the many folks that have taken their test under the W5YI VEC, and those great examiners throughout the country from all of the VECs. We applaud all that the volunteer exam coordinators, groups like yourself and the League and others, for all the hard work you're putting in. So, Larry, thank you so much, and keep up the good work. And if we have some remote exam dates, let me know, and we'll let them know here. Thank you so much, Larry. Final word to you.
All right. Well, thank you, and happy to be here tonight to talk about this. We've our phone's been ringing off the hook, and emails coming in by droves, inquiring about. I guess it was a rumor that it happened, and then all of a sudden, it became reality that it really did happen. There's some nice features about doing that, using this system called Exam Tools, such as they don't have to even put their Social Security number on a 605. They actually, from that website, link into the FCC Coors registration process, and all of their information is auto-populated on the 605 form. Nobody sees anything except what goes on the form with the FRN.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Larry, and we'll let you drop off now and get back to all that mound of paperwork. But all of us certainly appreciate the hard work that volunteer exam coordinators, as well as the volunteer examiners, hams like ourselves, are doing to see the ham service expand. Thanks so much, Larry.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to take a look at what's going on with not only remote testing, but remote video. And then we're going to be followed up with all about Zoom and the easy way to get aboard Zoom. But right now, let's go to the Amateur Television Network and see where Roland, who is a bicyclist galore, see where he's got his units placed for the new communications van. So, Roland, it's yours.
Fantastic, Gordon. Well, thank you very much for inviting us again. This is going to be fantastic. I'll tell you, welcome back to the Amateur Television Network, my friends. Yes. And right now, what we're going to be doing is this segment is going to be mobile ATV and mobile deployment and mobilization. And that's what it's all about. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a few pictures over here while I talk myself through, because we're going to talk about our very special tool that we have within ourselves. And so, Amanda, if you're watching, this one is definitely for you. Okay, we're going to be highlighting our ATV truck. So, and there you are. There's our ATV truck, which was from Frank WA7HXO. He was the actual owner of that vehicle. And so, I'll tell you, it is wild. We got a full mast there, and oh my gosh, let me go back to this picture here. And so there, and that's the inside of the racks when we first bought it. It was pretty much empty because it was actually being used by the Red Rock Search and Rescue Team before it was donated to the Amateur Television Network. So we're very, very excited about it. And, oh my gosh, this is just fantastic. There's the rack system here inside the truck. So you got it, Amanda. It's just fantastic. This is the NiCoil. So there you go. And so, of course, with that being said, we said, okay, we have consummated the deal. And, of course, it was very kindly donated to the Amateur Television Network. It was just simply awesome. Wow, we were just so floored. And, of course, you know, with the double handshake like that, Frank basically says, suckers, you don't realize what you got now. Well, I'll tell you what we've got, because you know what? After we made the deal, it was called the Journey Home, my friends. Mike was driving the truck back, and I myself was right behind videoing all this. You got it. And so now it's time to install the equipment made for amateur television. So there's yours truly. That's my nemesis. Yep, that's built Rojo. Whoops, that's a sideways shot. There you go. We're installing the audio panels as we speak. And then from there, we've installed the video system. We got the routers all patched in with video routing to either two of our cameras. We got into the mesh. We got into all kinds of different routings. And we're very fortunate. We have a waveform vector scope that was donated to us. And so, of course, now we have waveform and vector coming into the truck, and we can time our cameras and all that. And then the three monitors on the left, well, that shows the Santiago peak repeater system, and of course the router for the preview. And so that's been pretty darn exciting. So there you go. There's the equipment in the truck. There's Mike Collis, WA6SBT, and let me tell you, he is a rock star. He works for KCBS KCAL Channel 9 as a transmitter engineer, and of course, he is our backbone of the amateur television network, and we are just so pleased with all of his work. You got it. And so there you go. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do something very, very special. We're going to go live to the truck. We're Gary, W6KVC. He is out there on the truck as we speak. So let me patch him in real quick. And boom, there you go. There's our truck. And Gary, go out there and give him a tour. All right, Amanda. Okay. This is especially for Amanda. You got it.
As I walk in, you can see all the hard work that's been done.
There you are.
Roland, Mike, myself.
So there you are, functioning.
The monitors live.
You can see the Santiago repeater system.
Santiago repeater on.
And of course, I'm going to hit my transmitter
anyway,
and then watch the left monitors.
There we go.
And then there you go. Now we're transmitting. And there you go. Now we're going to transmit out, or we're going to feed back.
Well,
you got
anyway,
it. So there you go. That's our video rack. And then the other rack is our computer rack, and that serves the mesh. And so
there's the equipment. It's been raining, so the camera and everything is right now. One of the cameras is laying right there on the floorboard. It'll back up. I can show you.
And now go ahead into the back. There you go. There's our mast, our 30-foot mast. And of course, add to the height of the truck. We got approximately about 32.5 feet.
Tied onto the dish.
We've got our 5.8 dish on the very top with a 1.2 Yagi, the 434 digital Yagi, and then this dish.
Loaded with antennas for different frequencies.
Right now.
70 centimeters digital, and we use 2.4 gigs
very
FM.
good stuff. And
there,
so
I'm going to show you the back of the truck. As we walk around, we have a video and audio patch panel back here. We also have a big cable reel of 250 feet of audio and video cable.
We have
so when we do a live shoot inside the building,
a Siamese snake. And right behind there, that's our video console. So we go to ham radio meetings. We are live with 3 cameras and video, all kinds of great
and do graphics and everything else.
And so that and there you have it. That's our video truck. And
Roland, that was terrific.
We're so proud of that.
That was terrific, Roland. And Gary, 6KBC, thanks, Gary, for braving the elements to show Amanda how tall that hydraulic antenna, make that pneumatic antenna would go. Roland, just before we sign with you, would you just tell them, now that we're all at home, the degree of total success in working amateur television to take the San Bernardino Microwave Society meeting, big meeting, where everybody was sequestered at home rather than going to the meeting location. How did that work out a week or so ago?
Well, I'll tell you, Gordon, that worked out really, really well. We were very, very pleased. Obviously, we could not take the truck out just because that, just like you said, we have these things that we have to put on our faces, right? Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
What we had to do, and thanks to Gordon and thanks to Courtney and everybody with the San Bernardino Microwave Society, we used the KC6JPG studios right here. And I'm going to take off my IFB real quick because I'm going to have to zoom out. We're having a little fun here. There you go. So this is the KC6JPG studios. Yes, that's bicycles there. And that is my fly pack. And the fly pack basically was feeding the Cactus system and Gordon West's pre. So it was worth very, very much. And then right here is our main computer that we were streaming right into the amateur television network via YouTube. And so Gordon patched in from my computers over here, which is all my feeds. Right now we have our feeds from our online community, which I'm going to show you guys in a moment. And so we patched in Gordon, and let me tell you, we have made innovation and breakthrough for the amateur television network, because what we did is something truly unique, and especially during the crisis that we have endured, we able to not only take the video from the chat room like we do here, like I'm going to show you right here. There is our online community. There is an example of what they do. We bring them in. Wave, everyone. You got it, our online community.
Wow.
Yay, fantastic. And so we bring them into the Amateur Television Network. And the guys that were on the Cactus system on their radios was watching through YouTube. And, of course, those that don't have radios were watching on YouTube. And if they're watching on the Amateur Television Network on RF, they were actually seeing it on our repeater system. So let me tell you, Gordon, it was fantastic. Your presentation was the bomb. I'll tell you that right now. And fantastic stuff. And we are very, very pleased how everything turned out. And wow.
Well,
and of course, your talk about maritime mobile, it was fantastic. And Gary, come in here, my friend. So pull up a stool.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Roland. And this has just been a great benefit for those of us throughout the country at home, where we can actually go to a club meeting via amateur television, two-way, wireless. And Roland, just give them a nice website to go to start their tour. And there's Gary. Hi, Gary. How are you? And thanks for getting that van ship-shape.
Oh, I'm fine. It's W6KBC. I was just out at the truck showing everybody, so quick response back to the studio because it's starting to rain again.
Well, Gary, thank you so
I'll tell you, we were blessed with a blue sky overhead, and I thought we were going to be able to do a live shot in front of the truck, and all of a sudden this big black cloud showed up.
Yeah, so it was a quick shoot of the truck. It's out front there.
No, it
anyway,
came
with
out.
a remote camera, we made it happen.
Oh, very good. Well, Gordon,
job.
I'm going to turn back to you, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. Roland and Gary, thank you so much for coming on board. And Roland, just give them the best website to learn more about what folks can do when they're sequestered at home.
You got it. Well, great websites to go to is definitely our YouTube site. And if I'll bring up the graphics, so for those that want to see our YouTube address, and there's our YouTube address, and there you go, www.youtube.com/amateur television network. We are streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We got 2 stations right now streaming, the W6ATN serving Southern California and Nevada, and W7ATN serving Arizona. And our chapters, when they start streaming their systems, we will link into our amateur television network system, and that way everyone will be on the air to everywhere. Right, Gary?
Right.
Yay!
All right. All right. Well, thank you both so much, and we'll let you go. Get out of the rain. Gary and Roland, Amateur Television Network, making it happen when we're stuck here at the house. Now, when we're all here at the house and we think, gosh, what can we do to keep our club going? I always cringe when I hear that an amateur radio club meeting has been canceled. Well, for a small meeting, a small club, you could actually do it on the air, or either over a repeater or a simplex. But for large clubs, such as the Mountaintop Amateur Radio Association way up at Lake Arrowhead, where they just had a good snow today and yesterday, those club meetings are best handled by Zoom. Oh, yeah, but I'm not really into computers. I mean, Zoom's got to be complicated. Not necessarily. Here's Tracy Lenocker. Tracy is going to talk all about the Zoom and how to easily click in and become part of Zoom. Hi, Tracy. How you doing?
Hey, well, I'm doing fine, Gordon. And one of the things is when we do talk about it here in just a few minutes is easy, is everybody else that's listening will, I'd just like to let know that actually Gordon figured it out himself. So it's not hard to do. But, you know, in these, was he laughing at me? Somehow I lost my audio feed here. Okay. So anyway, what we've got here is in these times, a lot of people amateur radio operators are practicing new digital modes, learning Morse code, increasing your speed, all kinds of other things. But what we really miss is that face-to-face get-togethers that we have at our club meetings. And they're so much fun. So there's a number of ways. Let's go ahead and put one of the slides up here, and I'll talk about that. So the different kinds of solutions, there are several different solutions here that are possible. And there's streaming type of solutions as well. So some of the products are like Zoom, WebEx, Skype, TeamViewer, BlueJeans, GoToMeeting, ClickMeeting, Adobe Connect, and AnyMeeting. There's a number of those solutions. And what you want to look at, though, is the different kinds of features that they might have, for your club or whatever you want to be able to do. So, of course, you want to have video conferencing because that's how you can have the face-to-face part with your other friends in your club. And you might want to have screen sharing. The ability to actually share documents, or in the case, what I also do is I can put parts down here and have a camera look at it, and we can talk about things like SWR meters, and people can see it and see it work. And video phone calls, and of course, webinars. So those are some of the features you want to look at. As far as considerations, you want to make sure that it's easy to use, that the installation is simple, and that it can be a secured system. So those are the kinds of things that you should be looking at. So some of the ideas to use this video conferencing would be, of course, club meetings, Elmer sessions, something we call virtual field trips, and I'll talk about that toward the end, and of course, classes. And it was really nice to hear from Larry that they'll be able to do some testing. So we can have some classes on Zoom for our technicians, our generals, or our amateur extras, and then they'll be able to have a way to do tests. That was so good to hear about that. So as far as the one I want to talk about is the Zoom program. Now, there are others, like I said, and some people do use WebEx, but it seems to be the thing that most people are using right now is Zoom. It is easy to install. I'll show a couple of slides here in a moment. It runs on just about all platforms. So not only does it run on desktops and laptops, but on iPhones and Apples and tablets. So it works on all those different platforms. And what's nice about the Zoom program is you just send what's called an invitation, which is an email, to a person or to a group so they can join in. And I'll kind of show you how this works in a little bit. And the invitation can also generate the installation. So if the person hasn't installed Zoom, when they get to it and click on it, it'll start installing the Zoom client on their device, whether it's a phone or whether it's a laptop computer. And the product is, as I say, is secure as any of the other products that were on that list. And I'm going to talk to you about securing and running Zoom in secure modes. If you want to, let's go back just one slide. If you want to get directly to the free version, I have down at the bottom, zoom.us/pricing. And when you go to that website, you'll see what's on the next slide. And of course, you want to do the one that I've circled here that's free, because that's what ham radio operators want. We want free things. And notice on that it can handle up to 100 participants. There is or was a 40-minute limitation on the time. But during this pandemic, the Zoom company has extended that to unlimited time for right now. But if you're doing a one-to-one meeting, let's say you're just talking to your family or something like that, then it's unlimited time. So I just want you to know that it is unlimited time. But you have up to 100 participants on the free version. There are other versions, but you want to do the free one, of course. Well, let's see how this kind of works. So let's say here that you've downloaded the program. And on our next slide here, you'll have some choices. And it's nice that there aren't many options here, so we don't have to deal with lots of different things. So let's say you've downloaded and you want to be the moderator. So you just click on that icon that says New Meeting, and that will start a conference. There's actually two ways, though, to communicate in a Zoom conference. The one I'm talking about right this minute is when you are the moderator. But the next slide will actually show the other option there that's called Join. So if somebody sends you a message, an email, and you want to join, and you've already started your Zoom program, you can just click there, and it will automatically start up for you. I'm not going to talk too much about that because that is just so easy, because you get an email, you click on the link, and it just starts right up. Okay, so the next thing is here. So once you've clicked on your meeting startup as a moderator, you'll get this window, and it'll say, and you want to click on Join with Computer Audio. So when you do that, then it will automatically, and notice down here in the bottom left that I have a red circle around the fact that it's starting with the video off. So the video is off, it's got a red slash through it. So when you click on that audio there as the host, okay, you will then be going to the next slide here. It'll be pretty easy. I have blocked out my password and invitation. I almost didn't do that, but then I noticed, wow, probably don't want to put that on the air. There's two ways to invite people then when you're the moderator. You can click on the one that just says invite others, and it'll take you to a series of about 2 different menus where eventually you'll just go ahead. It'll automatically fill out an email for you, and you just have to put the email addresses of the people you want to invite in there. But down at the bottom, there's also another little icon there where the arrow's pointing. That's another one that if you click on, that will also allow you to invite other people. So once you do that and you've invited somebody, what they see on their end is this window will pop up. And all they have to do is click on this open link right there that it says, and they'll be kind of connected. And that's what I want to talk about next. And we'll kind of slip into this here about security. A lot of people are hearing things maybe on the news or whatever on TV about security issues with these types of programs. Well, first of all, the Zoom people have changed the defaults, so it's fairly protected. But I want to show you, in case you're going to run a Zoom meeting and be the host of this, what you want to really do is not just start a meeting necessarily, but schedule a meeting. Because when you schedule a meeting, you can set some very important parameters here. So one of the parameters, and probably what I think is the most important over here, kind of on the left toward the top, it says generate an ID automatically. What this is every time you do a meeting, it will automatically create a different ID. And likewise below, it will automatically create a password. What you don't want to do is where the red X is and use your personal ID time and time and time again. And there's some reasons for that. So you want to generate automatically and require a password. The next area down there is how does the video work? So I always like my video to be off when it starts. The participants, it really doesn't matter. That's why I've got a question mark there. You know, it's however you want the participants to start coming on. Do you want to see them with their videos on or their videos off? So that's an option. This table actually goes down further, so I had to cut and paste and put a little bit on the right side. Here are what I consider the second and maybe one of the most important things. You want to check on this box that says Enable Waiting Room. And the other thing is you want to mute the participants on entry. But this waiting room is where you get the highest level of security. And what we do for our meetings is we know who our club members are, we know their call signs, and if we invite other people in, we know who they are. And they stay actually in this waiting room. So once you start here and the session's going on, what you'll see next is a couple of different options. So on the left, what you'll see actually on the upper right of your screen, I've just copied only this piece here. It'll say one person is waiting. And so you can see here that Denise, N6DEE, is actually in what's called the waiting room. Now, if I move my mouse over by where her name is, an option will come up to admit her to the session. And there's more than one usually. Sometimes there'll be 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5, depending upon the time and things like that. And so you just go ahead and admit them. And once you do that, then what you'll see in the case of Denise here is the next slide will show you what appears. So let's go to the upper right here. So now she's been added, but notice in the red circle, I've circled that her audio is off and her video is off. But she can hear me, so I can talk to her because my audio is on. So I can talk to her and say, okay, I see you, you've been admitted, please stand by before we start our session, or whatever else we want to do. Now, cameras is one of the other interesting things about security. Only the person who's joined the meeting can turn on and off their camera. I can't turn on and off Denise's camera. Okay, so I can't do it. So I can tell her that we're starting, go ahead and turn on the camera, and she can do that if she wants to actually see a real video, or she can actually put a picture, a static picture up as well. But both of us can control her audio control there. Both of us can do that. So once you do that, and once you add a whole bunch of people, this is what it looks like. Next. So that's what it looks like. So you can see all these different people. This is one of our sessions, I think, from last week. The one this week, actually, we had close to 30 people in here. And so you get to see them. Some of them, I think everybody here actually has a live picture. Sometimes people put up static pictures. A fun thing you can do with Zoom is you can put any background, you can put backgrounds behind it. So in the lower left, Dave there actually has a picture when he was in Hawaii. And over toward the upper right, Gene there, he must love submarines. So it's kind of like a green screen, but you don't have to have a green screen. Zoom just lets you do these cute little things. And of course, underneath there is Gail, who decides she wants to be over there where there's palm trees. There's fun things you can do. You can do live. And like I said, you can put a static picture up there as well. So, and actually, Denise was in there in the middle. So the next thing I just want to mention in general here is that what do we do with our club, the Mountaintop Amateur Radio Association? So we thought about first by just doing club meetings. But then one of our members who I was talking to about doing this and organizing this many weeks ago said, why don't we do some online things that involve all of our members? So we have this one thing called Visit My Shack. And right now, for the next 2 months, I think we have about 14 of these planned. We do our sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. And then Visit My Shack. What the person does is actually then have Zoom on their phone. They'll show us their shack, their radios. They'll go outside. They'll show us their antennas and things like that. And then we get to ask them questions about their radios, the coax, the antennas, what do they do and stuff like that. And it's really fun, and it really involves our members really, really well. The second thing we do is Elmer sessions. So actually yesterday we had an Elmer session, and we had really good attendance on that. Gordon, who's actually one of our club members, put on one of the Elmer sessions. We had an Elmer session a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to have a number of them on things like logging programs and building some of these less expensive transceivers and things like that. We were looking at doing ham classes, and I was really pleased to hear, by Larry that it looks like we'll be able not only do ham classes, which we want to do, but then be able to do testing through W5YI. And then technical support. So we can have the person say, hey, hold your camera up. We had a person who didn't know how to, change their transceiver for whatever it is to 6 meters. So we had the person turn their camera around so we could see the knobs, and then we could just kind of coach that person. You need to do this, you need to do that, and that's how that came together. So we can do technical support, some kind of clever things. And here's the last one on this list is a very, very interesting one. So this one is an idea that came up with Dave, K6WDE, Kilo 6 Whiskey Delta Echo. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to say, we need to have not just HF nets, like where you check in and check out and stuff like that, but a time where we can really talk about all these things. People from the mountains, people from the valleys and from the desert areas around here in San Bernardino County. And so he started doing these, and we actually do it as a combined HF net and Zoom sessions. So people are on there live, and so Dave can see the people on the screen. And then we start actually, so we're going to be doing one actually Thursday, tomorrow. So we start at 10:30 in the morning. That's 10:30 Pacific time. And we start at the frequency of 14.240. And then what we do is people suggest, let's try this frequency. How does my antenna work here? Who else can hear me? So we move around on different frequencies, try different things. We typically don't do 80, but we do 40, 17, 15, 10, 6. We try different things, see how our antennas work or don't work, as the case may be, who you can hear, what the bands are like. Are they short? Are they long? We just have lots of fun. It actually goes on for about an hour. And so the people with the Zoom can talk to us, can see what's going on. Just a very interesting combination of both HF and Zoom sessions. So I wanted to share that one as well. So anyway, Gordon, that's kind of it. I'd like to say 73 to everyone. And let me turn it back to Gordon then and see if there's anything else he might want to say.
Oh, no, you said it all. Well, thank you so much, Tracy. And Tracy, again, for someone just wanting to get in on a meeting, it's just a click, and then they just need to put their name and a password they make up, and they're in?
Exactly. So when you download the program, if that's the approach you want to take, which I think is the best approach, it will install it for you. It installs it as a client, and then you just put in your name and you put in, a password. That also, I should also mention, I think I forgot to mention, that there's actually, not only is there a client, but you'd probably want to go to the website as well, because you can set some of your security settings. There's about almost 30 different settings you can set there on the website. So you want to do both of those. But yeah, the client, you just go ahead and fill that out. Somebody sends you an invite. You just double click on the link that's in there and you'll join. So there's actually two ways to join, but the easiest way is just to double click on the link, because it usually shows up in blue in your email.
Wow, that is terrific. Well, Tracy, thank you so much, because tonight we're trying to figure out how we can have a meeting without our masks, without the 6-foot separation. And on ham radio, we don't need a mask. We're set. So thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us. And what a pleasure to be working with the Mountaintop Amateur Radio Association. Your final, Tracy?
Well, thank you very much, Gordon. And I want to thank everybody else. We had great sessions here. Roland did a good job, and as did Gary and Dr. Wright. Those were really good to hear. But like I said, there's things you can do. There's other products other than Zoom, but it seems like most amateur radio people are now looking at Zoom as an option. We've been using it now for close to a month, and it's working out really well. And we're having lots of fun. And actually, I should mention that at the end of our sessions, which are kind of structured, everybody just starts talking and having fun and talking about their pets and what they're doing inside to stay busy and all kinds of stuff like that. So it became a really nice social time, considering we're stuck inside. Anyway, so that's about it, Gordon.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Yeah, what a morale booster. And quite frankly, during these times, it's week 3, we need everything that ham radio operators can do to help one another keep our morale up. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, right. Well, now let's take a listen and a view at Don, who has Newsline. Don?
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2214, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. If taking your license exam seems like a remote possibility right now, you should know that, well, it is. With the approval of the FCC, the first technician class license exam during the pandemic lockdown took place in the United States on March 26th remotely. It was conducted online in a virtual test environment.
Joseph Talbot of Nevada is now known as KJ7NNU, all because he took and passed his technician class license exam on the 26th of March. The test was given with the support of the W5YI Volunteer Examiner Coordinator in Arlington, Texas. It took place in a remote online environment where everyone was online, even the proctor who oversaw the test via video conferencing software. Joseph, who had held a license before, learned one day later that he had qualified to become a technician once again. WA6VPS reported on Twitter that the trial run was being considered a success and opened up the possibility of others taking tests during this period of lockdown from the global pandemic. He noted that remote testing has been permitted since 2014. In fact, the Anchorage Amateur Radio Club's volunteer examiners in Alaska have been conducting exams like this, but until now, a proctor still had to be physically present. Marcel Steiber, AI6MS, a volunteer examiner who lives in California, posted on Twitter on March 28th that the KJ7NNU test run gives other hams hope. He wrote, quote, "Stay tuned. We hope to have a scalable solution available for broader use soon." End quote. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Ralph Squillace, KK6ITB.
Because extraordinary circumstances inspire extraordinary measures, New Zealand hams are now able to use an extraordinarily different call sign.
No, you're not hearing things. If you're operating from New Zealand, ZL has just become ZM. And for good reason. Radio Spectrum Management has approved a request by the New Zealand Association of Radio Transmitters to treat COVID-19 lockdown as a special event, which, of course, would warrant a special prefix. According to Infoline, the association's newsletter, the purpose of the change is to make New Zealand amateurs a bit more prominent on the air and to make the world more aware of New Zealand in general. Yes, it's also a little extra touch to help everyone relieve that boredom that sometimes comes with having to stay in the same spot 24/7. The newsletter noted that the alternate prefix was suggested by Paul ZL4TT, or is that ZM4TT? So if you happen to be DXing and hear a New Zealand amateur calling QRZ with a ZM prefix, you're not hearing things. You've just copied one more New Zealand amateur who's brightening things up a bit by changing things up a bit. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meachin, ZM2BHF.
Now more than ever, it's important to celebrate amateur radio, even if you don't have access to HF.
Get ready for World Amateur Radio Day, which marks the 95th year since the founding of the International Amateur Radio Union. There will be plenty of action for hams who use Echolink or IRLP as their main modes. This year is the 5th year an international group of hams will be operating in a 12-hour net taking place on the Echolink/VoIP system starting at 1600 UTC on April 18th on the Dewdrop-In conference server node 355800. The special event coordinator, John Doraiki, W2JLD, said there will be a special event QSL card, along with a certificate marking the net's 5th year of operation. 9 control operators around the world will be helping make this happen. Elsewhere, be listening for the special event call W7W on the World Conference Server IRLP 9251. Tom Harrington, AF7J, told Newsline that hams will be calling QRZ starting at 1600 UTC. Check-ins will also be possible on IRLP node 9109 or All-Star 43609 and through repeaters linked to those nodes. Commemorative certificates can be emailed upon request. Paper QSLs can be requested through AA7WB along with a stamped self-addressed envelope. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Stephen Kinford, N8WB.
And a reminder that the nominating period for the 2020 Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Newsline Young Ham of the Year Award is now open. You'll find the form on our website, arnewsline.org, under the Awards tab. The award will be presented Saturday, August 22nd at the Huntsville Hamfest in Alabama. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Ralph Squilacci, KK6ITB, Jim Meachin, ZM2BHF, Stephen Kinford, N8WB, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
We have 2 new active regions on the sun this week that are from solar cycle 25, and the sun continues to bring us some fast solar wind with promise of aurora. Those stories and more in the news this week. This space weather forecast is sponsored in part by Millersville University. Come get certified in broadcast space weather. Visit millersville.edu/SWEN. Space weather this week is giving us more signs of the new solar cycle. As we take a look at our front side sun, you can see that new bright region rotating into Earth view. This is region 2759, and it is a solar cycle 25 sunspot, and it has been flare active. In fact, on the 4th, it fired off a B-class flare. Don't worry, it wasn't any radio blackouts associated with it. But since then, things have kind of died down a little bit. It's fizzling here and there, but we're still keeping our eye on it. On top of that, it has managed to boost the solar flux for amateur radio operators and emergency responders, so should be getting some decent propagation on Earth's day side. Now, on top of all that, we also have had some pockets of fast solar wind coming from these little remnant coronal holes, and they've actually bumped us up to active conditions sporadically over the past week or so and brought us some decent aurora here and there. But if you weren't able to catch it, no worries. We do have a finger-like coronal hole and a couple couple other like minor coronal holes that are going to be rotating in through the Earth strike zone here in about a week. So that should give us another chance for aurora. We could easily bump back up to active conditions, possibly even storm conditions. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Switching to your M-flare threat meter, you can see we continue to be really low in the X-ray flux, and therefore by proxy our solar flux continues to be low. With the new GOES 16 data, we are sitting just above the A floor. But hey, starting around the 2nd, you can see a few small solar flares. These are from region 2759 as it began to rotate into Earth view. And on the 4th, you can see, wham, we got hit by a little B-class flare. As a matter of fact, there were several of them there. Now, since then, this region has kind of fizzled down a little bit. It's not really actively flaring so much anymore. But hey, it's one of the first sets of flares we've seen from these new cycle sunspots. And that's giving us a little hope that activity is definitely beginning to ramp up. Now, on top of that, we are still sitting in the low 70s for solar flux. And this means marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side. And with the new region that's also going to be rotating into Earth view here in the next, probably 4 or 5 days, these conditions should easily continue over the next week. Switching to our solar storm conditions, you can see over the past week or so, we've been kind of hovering between quiet and unsettled conditions until about the 30th when, wham, we got hit by a small pocket of fast solar wind and it bumped us up to active conditions. And believe it or not, the active conditions managed to last for about half a day or more. And that allowed us to have some aurora that came down even to mid-latitudes for a short while. Then after that, things kind of calmed down a little bit and aurora retreated back up to high latitudes. And then, believe it or not, on the 4th, wham, we got hit by yet another pocket of fast solar wind, and this bumped us back up to unsettled conditions and then to active conditions. But it didn't last all that long. And since then, things have kind of quieted down and quieted down. We're now back to quiet conditions. And if you happen to miss the aurora that were associated with these little short storms, never fear. We have yet another pocket of fast solar wind that should be coming through with a coronal hole that's rotating into the Earth strike zone in about a week. So you get another chance for some aurora, even down to mid-latitudes, because there's a good chance we'll pump back up to active conditions and maybe even storm conditions. So what else does our sun have in store for us this week? Well, this is Stereo A. It's our partially far-sighted monitor. You can see here's Earth, here's the sun, and here's Stereo A staring at the sun pretty much from the side. And when you take a look at the sun in Stereo's view, you can see bright region 2759 there in the north. It's rotating off of the west limb in Stereo's view because it's now rotating into Earth view. And you can see it's actually been a little bit flare active. But if you look at the east limb in Stereo's view, you actually see a couple other small bright regions. One of them even fires off a small solar storm before it disappears. And then around the 5th, you can actually see a bright region in the southern hemisphere rotating into Stereo's view. This is yet another solar cycle 25 active region. Don't know if it's going to be a sunspot, and it's not all that active. But hey, at least for amateur radio operators and emergency responders, this region, as it rotates into Earth view here in the next few days, will continue to keep that solar flux boosted into the low 70s for you, so you can enjoy some marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side easily over this next week. Switching to your solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we aren't anticipating any big solar storms coming our way. We're kind of sitting a little bit in unsettled territory right now. At high latitudes, NOAA's expecting unsettled conditions with up to about a 20% chance of a minor storm. This is once again from kind of some unsettled solar wind that we're kind of driving through, but it should calm down here over the next few days. At mid-latitudes, we're only expecting normal to unsettled conditions with about a 10% chance of active conditions, but really not expecting all that much. So enjoy this quiet, because in a little over a week, we are expecting a finger-like coronal hole to rotate into the Earth strike zone, and that could be sending us some more fast solar wind, which could easily bump us back up to active conditions, possibly even storm levels, and bring us some more aurora. Switching to our solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything is still in the green when it comes to big solar flares. We do have a single bright region on the Earth-facing disk right now. That is region 2759, but it has since fizzled and is no longer considered a sunspot, so we're not expecting any big radio blackouts, and that should make you GPS users very happy. Your GPS reception on Earth's day side should continue to stay pretty top-notch. Now, it is, however, boosting the solar solar flux, we are managing to stay in the low 70s for solar flux, which means marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side. And along with that other region that's going to be rotating on Earth's side from the sun's far side here in about a week or so, then that should continue to keep those solar flux numbers in the 70s for you amateur radio operators and emergency responders. Now, also because we are at solar minimum, the cosmic ray flux is still very high, and it's impinging a bit more than it normally should. So you frequent flyers, and this does include air crew who fly over 800 hours annually and fly at high latitudes and high altitudes, you are in the marginal range for radiation dose, and this does include prenatal passengers. So please take this into consideration in your flight plans. So the space weather this week is definitely giving us hope for the future. We have a bright region on the Earth-facing disk that's from the new solar cycle, and it has been actively flaring. So it's showing us activity is beginning to pick up. On top of that, we also have a new cycle region on the sun's far side. And as that one rotates into Earth view, between those two regions, that should keep that solar flux boosted into the low 70s, which means marginal radio propagation for amateur radio operators and emergency responders this week. Now, on top of that, we've had some decent solar storming over the past week or so. It's not lasted all that long, but it has given us some beautiful aurora in several places in the world. And we have a promise of more. In about a week, we'll have yet another coronal hole that's going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone and possibly sending us some more fast wind. So aurora photographers, enjoy this few days of break and then get ready, because we'll have yet some more chances for aurora to mid-latitudes. Now, finally, you GPS users, well, you know, the solar storming hasn't been all that bad, and these new cycle sunspots haven't been boosting the flux too much yet. So GPS reception pretty much everywhere on Earth's day side have been pretty nice. And then on Earth's night side, well, as long as you stay away from aurora and away from those dawn dust terminators, your reception should be top-notch. I'm Tamitha Skov. Thank you for watching.
Get out and be active with ICOM's new IC705 and its optional multifunction backpack. The IC705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tips of your fingers and a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo, or just over 2 pounds. With RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. 5-watt battery operation with BP272 or 10 watts with a 13.8 volt DC supply. Modes include single sideband, CW, AM, FM, as well as full D-Star functions. A large 4.3-inch color touchscreen and live band scope with waterfall. Integrated GPS with antenna and GPS logger, micro SD card for data storage. It comes standard with the HM243 speaker microphone, and it supports QRP and QRP-P operations. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the LC192 optional backpack with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories for SOTA activations or just a day in the park. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information about this and all the great ICOM radios. And ICOM invites you to enter weekly in the drawings for some great swag prizes like t-shirts and hats at ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation. You'll also be entered in the grand prize drawing, if you win, for a new radio. And for April, that new radio is the ICOM IC2730A dual-band analog mobile with optional Bluetooth. It's a dual-band, dual-watch mobile with simultaneous VHF-UHF, VHF-VHF, or UHF-UHF receive. It has a large, high-contrast display. Optional Bluetooth board is available, and there's a free downloadable programming software available as well. So visit ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation after this and each episode of HamNation and register to win. That's ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation. And tonight, For smoking solder, we've just got a brief video here. I'm going to play it locally so I don't freak out Victor, because I was last minute getting this together. But, there's, well, a lot of people have no trouble watching the live stream here. But I do notice that a good many people do have issues with it. And, for one thing or another, it's usually a bandwidth issue. But I thought I'd present a few tips tonight just to, hopefully help those that may not have tried some of these things to be able to watch the live stream, actually live when it's occurring. My demonstration here is using Windows 10 with the Google Chrome browser. This will be very similar on Linux and probably on Mac OS as well. The first thing you want to do is boot your computer up an hour or two before showtime. If you have the option, it's usually better to use a wired internet connection rather than Wi-Fi. If you must use Wi-Fi, check your signal strength and position your device for the best signal. If you're using a hotspot for internet service, you'll need to check the signal strength on both the hotspot and on the device you're viewing with. And you should reduce or eliminate other uses of your internet service while you're watching the live stream. I recommend that at least 5 or 10 minutes before showtime, you go to live.twit.tv and bring up the stream viewer on your browser. You've got several choices here of how you're going to watch the stream: Twitch, Mixer, Ustream, YouTube Live, Spreaker, or TuneIn. If you're using the YouTube stream and you've got some buffering or issues that just don't seem to resolve, you've got some options here. Go to the settings button, which looks like a gear. Click on it, go down to quality. There's an arrow out to the side. Choose that. Here's all the different resolutions that you can choose from. You might try going to a lower resolution. That'll take a lot less data, and see if you get better result. It's not going to look as good as high definition, but if you're on a compromised internet service, then this might be good enough to get you watching the live stream where otherwise you couldn't. If you're still having issues, then you just may not have enough bandwidth to watch live. You can wait a few hours, though, and download the show. Just go to twit.tv/shows/ham-nation, and you'll have some options there. If you scroll down, you'll see the most recent episodes. To download the latest one, just go here, click on it, scroll down, lower on the page, and you'll find download options. Click on that, and it'll pop up with all your different options to download the video: HD video, SD large or small, audio, or watch on YouTube. So choose the one you want, right-click on it, then choose Save Link As. And here you can choose where you want to save it. I'll just save it on the desktop because it'll be easier for me to find there. And it already has put a name in here. We just click on Save, and it'll download it right to my hard drive. That didn't take long, but I've got pretty fast internet service here. Right there on the desktop, you can just double-click on it, bring it up and play it. Now, that's not quite as high a resolution if I had downloaded the high-def version, but it's certainly good enough in a lot of cases, and it uses a lot less data. So there you go, just some tips if you're having problems trying to watch live with buffering or one thing or another. One of the most important things I mentioned there was the first thing, but I didn't explain why. I said boot up your computer an hour or two ahead of time, because if you're running Windows 10, particularly the home version, since you don't have a good way to prevent it, it's going to go out and look for updates. And you don't want to turn on your computer right before you're going to try to do some critical tasks or something that's, going to use a lot of internet bandwidth or CPU cycles. Because if it decides to update Windows at the same time, guess who's going to win? Yeah, it's not going to be your video that you're trying to watch. So that's why I say boot up, an hour or two in advance. Give your computer a little chance to go out and see if it needs any updates and get those out of the way. So now it is time to bring in Val and find out what's going on in DX Corner tonight. Hi, Val.
Hi, George. God, there's a lot of great segments tonight. I know the show's long, but really jam-packed with lots of good stuff. It was nice to see Dr. Scott Wright on. I don't know if you guys know this, but he is a world-renowned cardiologist. I mean, people all over the world seek him. And we were supposed to actually go on vacation with Dr. Scott Wright, W0MD, to Turks and Caicos and do ARRLDX last month. And, of course, the pandemic made us cancel. So hopefully we'll get to do that with Scott soon. And hopefully you guys will donate that plasma if you've overcome the COVID-19. So I have with me a special guest tonight. But first, I'm going to start off with a video, a real short one. And just want to say, how would you like to be able to do a DXpedition and not have to leave the country? Well, that's what Kilo Oscar 8 Sierra Charlie Alpha Adrian got to do, along with some other hams. Now, he's part of the club that gets to operate from the United Nations. And they went and activated that a little while ago. So I've got Adrian with us tonight. Welcome, Adrian.
Hello, Valerie. Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, and hopefully you're staying safe in New York City, the epicenter, it looks like. So, but yeah, it was really good to have you activate that DXpedition. It must be nice to be able to just go down the street and be the DX. So why don't you kind of tell us about the operation, how many people and things like that, and Victor can roll some photos and kind of talk about. First, before we get into that, I know we have one picture of an antenna, but tell us about how the security is and how hard it is to set up an operation in the United Nations. I can imagine the security is just surreal.
Yes, Valerie. Well, although the United Nations Radio Club is right in New York City, it's hard to consider it an easy DXpedition because it took quite a few years for the club to be reactivated, and the YASME Foundation awarded the YASME Excellence Award to the James Sarte, Kilo 2, Quebec, India, the president and the custodian of the United Nations Radio Club. And that's basically the event that took place on March 6th this year. The festivities, let's say, were the moment the award was given to Mr. James Sarte and to myself by the president of the YASME Foundation, Marty Lane, Oscar Hotel to Bravo Hotel. And that took place, and that's the picture basically where this took place, right at the heart of the United Nations in the Security Council meeting room. And that was quite an event, and that's basically the event that opened up the club again to the hams around the world that were expecting for the club to be on the air. On this event, especially the club had a special guest, a famous ham operator, Kilo 1 Juliet Tango, Joe Taylor, who is a Nobel Prize laureate, and he's better known as the inventor of the new mode, ham radio operator, that ham operators around the world are using it quite a bit, the famous Fox Tango 8. And
I think we have video here of them doing FT8, right? If you want to play the next one, Victor. There we go.
Yes. So basically the first ever FT8 QSO from the 4 United, 1 United Nations Radio Club was done by Joe Taylor himself. And the first lucky ones, the first 25 lucky ones that were able to make a QSO with him will get a special QSL card and a little award. It was quite an exciting moment, and Mr. James Sarde and who is the president of the radio club, together with the vice president of the radio club, Golf 6 Charlie Bravo Radio, they put a lot of effort into getting this event up and running. Right after the FT8 QSOs, the team of James and Phil, together with the 6 guest operators, including myself, activated. This is the basically everybody that took part in the activation of the club station into the ARL DX SSB contest. So for 48 hours, we were present on site to enjoy the contest and give a new one to as many contesters that called us. We made, I think, about 2,000 QSOs. It was a lot of fun. Indeed, it's very difficult to get access at the United Nations. It's a secure building, just like any other Army, let's say, place. Requires any guest operator to be every guest operator that operates from the radio club has to be helped by the security personnel, and we had some really nice people that helped us while we were putting this event together. It's
do they run
difficult.
background checks and stuff on you in order to have to operate in there, or anything like that?
No, it's just that the security personnel has to be with you everywhere you go if you're not part of the United Nations, meaning if you don't work for the United Nations. So the other 5 guest operators and myself, being guests there, we had to be always together with the security personnel. So even if you go to the bathroom or you just want to have a break, you cannot just walk around the building. You have to be escorted by security personnel. So that makes it very difficult. But still, we were able to find solutions and get on the air. The club is now active, and that's the important part. We'll be on the air quite often as operators and are able to get to the United Nations.
Well, I noticed you were on the air today because I worked on FT8.
Just for a few minutes, we were doing some tests there, and because of all the restrictions these days, it's hard to get into the UN building.
Well, and it's great that you have the club off now. Now that you have the club up, you're going to be on a lot more often. So that's kind of nice that they opened that back up after the remodel, right? So it should be a regular basis?
Correct. Yes, it's basically a club that's operated by the UN employees. So you have to be a UN employee and have a license in order to be able to operate from the club. But from time to time, at certain events, they invite the guest operators, just like myself, and enjoy a little bit the pile-ups from there. The difficulties that we had in the past, in the last few years, in order to get the station up and running, those are behind us, and that's the important part. You were asking about the antenna. Indeed, it's very difficult to get approvals and permissions to get on top of a 42-story building and install an antenna. We have there a big IR, step IR vertical antenna that works for the 40 to 6 meter bands. It was quite difficult to install. You can only imagine the amount of wind you get at that type of, let's say, altitude. So it took quite a few years, and we usually were not allowed to be there for a long period of time, usually just an hour or two. But so that's why the process took a long time. But we had to basically go by the rules imposed by our guests. So in the end, like you said, the important thing is that at this point in time, the club is on the air and will be active very often.
That's good to know. And then from there, a bunch of you guys zipped off to the British Virgin Islands to be Victor Papa 2, Victor Bravo. So why don't you kind of tell some people about that? I know I worked you on, what did I get you on? 12 out of the 14 band slots while you were there. So that must have been fun too.
You only had one missing. Yes, so the expedition in BVI, British Virgin Islands, it was a historical, the expedition. It was basically designed to celebrate 60 years from the expeditions that took place about 60 years ago made by Danny Whale. His call sign was Victor Papa to Victor Bravo, and the telecommunication department in Tortola, British Virgin Islands, allowed us to use his call sign to celebrate 60 years since he activated so many places around the world. Danny Whale was a British born ham operator. He liked to travel, and he one day bought a boat and decided to go around the world and visit places. And while doing so, he basically stopped by at different DX entities and made the QSOs, and the Yasmin Foundation supported his voyages. He basically built 3 boats over a period of, I think, about 10 years while he traveled around the world and activated very, very rare entities. It is said
he's
that
a very famous DXpeditioner. So why don't you tell us about these antennas we got here?
Yes. So we had our operating place was in the Anegada Island, which is a coral island, a flat place perfect for radio, surrounded by salt water. And because of that, we used 3 different vertical antennas. We had 2 stations. The antennas were 2 verticals for 40 to 10 meters, another one for 80 to 10 meters, and a vertical for 160. The antenna right at the farther away, it's the 160 vertical with the capacitive loading. All these antennas this antenna was made with the Spider Beam 80-meter fiberglass pole, and our goal was to give an all-time new one to as many people as possible. This is the crew that went to BVI. It's of course the Yasmin Foundation president, Marty Lane, Oscar Hotel. Oscar Hotel 2 Bravo Hotel, then Nico, Oscar Hotel 2 Golf Echo Kilo, Sandro, Victor Echo 7 November Yankee, and myself, Kilo Oscar A Sugar Charlie Alpha. It was a small team, but we were focused on giving low bands to a lot of operators around the world, and we focused a lot on Asia, where this particular entity, VP2V, is very, very rare, especially in 160. We made a lot of people happy in Asia and Europe. We were there for about a week, and we made around 18,000 QSOs, and mostly on, like I said, the focus was on 160 meter. This is the picture we took at the telecom, and this is the representative of the BVI telecom that handed us the license to use the historical call sign Victor Papa 2 Victor Bravo that belonged to Danny Whale.
Yeah, you did 17,985 contacts. You couldn't stay for those 15 more contacts. Make it 18. But yeah, it was a nice DXpedition. So glad to hear the UN is back up and rolling. And I don't know how you always end up with all this good DX. I keep thinking the more I have you on the show, maybe I'll get invited to one of them. Because that was a really good one when we had you on live from Somalia. Gotta say, that was one of my best interviews. I liked that one. So hopefully we'll have you on live from a really nice exotic location coming soon to an island near you.
That's correct. Yes, hopefully this situation around the world is going to calm down, and our plans will be coming alive. And I promise next time I'm going to a deserted island, I will be giving you a call and be on the show.
Oh, great. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for being up late. I know you got to get up early, so I'm going to let you go. And hopefully we'll have you on soon again with another one.
Thanks for having me. 73 from New York. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Stay safe. Yeah, so before I hand it over to Amanda, I just wanted to kind of give you some things to help get you out of the quarantine doldrums, too. This weekend, we've got the New Mexico QSO Party, the Georgia QSO Party, and the North Dakota QSO Party. And then the following weekend is Michigan and Ontario QSO Party. And then there's also this thing that the RSGB, the Radio Society of Great Britain, is doing, and they're calling it the Hope QSO Party. And they're running them like every couple of days or so, a lot of times during the week, in the middle of the day. They're different times, different days. And it's only like 90 minutes. I mean, they're different. If you go online and look it up, you'll see different days, different amount of times. Something to do, in the middle of the week. If you're looking for something to do for an hour and a half, get on, and you don't have to be a RSGB member, and get on there and do some activity that way. And I think, and don't forget about your wellness nets. Hopefully a lot of you clubs out there are having daily nets to take care of the people in your community, make sure they're all well. And, I'm going to make one with some Packer, Green Bay Packer fabric I have. I'm going to make a cover for my N95. So looking good there, Amanda. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. I just had to show this off. My emojis, hi. Okay. I don't actually need it like right now. So anyhow, I just wanted to promote, use your mask when you go out. All right. So did Adrian stick around, or did you guys hang up with him?
He's gone.
He's gone. Okay. So Val, maybe you can answer this.
11 there or something. It's pretty late out in New York.
Yeah, so. I know. Maybe you could answer this. So his whole 4 Uniform 1, Uniform November, their activation, how did those people get invited? I was just curious. I saw some really familiar faces and things like that. Were they just invited?
Adrian belongs to the club there. They had the United Nations Club. So he's one of the members of the club. Now they brought Taylor in, who invented FT8, him and the guy down here in Champaign. I can't remember his call, but they did the FT8 language, so they invited Joe Taylor, and then Ria is the division director for that area. So they brought special guest stops in to take care of that. But most, the other ones, and Marty, Marty is Marty. Marty's been on more DXpeditions than anybody in the world, I think. So, yeah, but mostly it's club members, and then you have to be invited to be a special guest.
Very good. I just didn't know if there was some kind of waiting list or by invitation only.
I'm on it if there is. He knows I want to go there. Because it's an
Valerie's
easy trip,
on that list. All right.
You don't
and
need
I think you
don't need a visa.
You gave him a little boost, like, hey, I'm here. I'm available. So, all right. Okay. I know it's been a really long show. I'm just going to go over some nets this evening. And we've had so much content. I can't even, and thank you, Val, for mentioning the health and wellness nets. They're the most important, I think, right now in squashing rumors and also helping people out. And our situation is so fluid right now. one day you're allowed to go into King Soopers with no limit on how many people can go in. The next day you find out that it's at 50% capacity. So now you're stuck in a line. These are all things that we talk about on these nets. Not to mention just what's available and where. Sometimes people are looking for certain goods and another person will say, oh, I saw plenty of bleach at this supermarket, or they had stew meat at this supermarket. So those things are kind of helpful right now. I think we can all agree on that. So check those out. Listen to them daily. If you're stuck at home, it's really helpful. Just don't spread false rumors. Don't say anything that you might have saw on Facebook without making sure that it was true. Some of those things like there's roadblocks and we're checking your temperature before you can come in here. Just make sure it's true before you say that on a radio. Just please.
Or post it.
For all of mankind, don't do that unless you know it's true. All right. So we've gone really late tonight, so I'm not sure how many of these nuts are still running, but check them out if you can. We've got D-Star on 14 Charlie, and we've got DMR on 31012. Kevin was going to give 7192 a shot, but he said conditions were dismal at best. And I didn't see W7UDI at all. But if you want to listen on 14268, again, it's probably a little bit late for the 20-meter net, but see if you can pick anybody up there. So with that, George, you going to wrap this up tonight?
I can. And how do you wrap up something like this? I counted like 7 or 8 topics that we covered in depth tonight. So, wow, what a show tonight. Thanks to everyone who joined us here. I don't think we've ever had a show like this before. And fortunately, Val came in there at the end and made us a legitimate ham show by talking a little bit about DX there, because we were all over the place tonight, but a great show. We look forward to seeing everyone here again next week. Before we go, let's just go around the horn with the 2 remaining hosts tonight. Val, any final words from you?
No, I just want to say, make sure you get on the air, talk to people, because it's really important to have keep your mental health going. Well, I mean, we've been in quarantine 6 weeks now, and I watch puppy rescue videos, soldiers returning home, and then I get on the air, and that helps my mental state.
Yeah, I can see after watching puppy videos and all of that, you would need a little ham radio to kind of get you back down to earth.
Oh, I have something better than puppy videos right now. Yes, very close. So I don't know if anyone has followed. You're seeing like a lot of fire departments going out and cops going out to homes to say happy birthday to kiddos that can't have birthday parties. We're going to have one right here, right now, because we have an 18-year-old. Her name is Mac, and her call sign is K04 Bravo Kilo Yankee. And she had a birthday yesterday, and she probably did not have a party. So we're all going to wave to her and say, happy birthday. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I hope it was special for you, and I hope you're getting on the radio as well. So one thing we can do to help them celebrate. Thank you. Over to you, George.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us again, everyone. And join us again next week when I believe Bob and Gordo and Don and the whole crew will be here. And we don't know what we're going to do yet, but I can guarantee you one thing. It will be interesting. So join us then. 7-3, and stay safe.